Thank you for joining today's podcast. My name is Kendall Paradise, and I'm the president at Epec Engineer Technologies. I've worked at Epec for over 13 years, starting originally in customer service. I then moved quickly into logistics and supply chain, where I've spent the majority of my career. When Epec first started manufacturing printed circuit boards in Asia, we had little in house experience with international freight. We had to develop partnerships with our suppliers not only to build our products, but also how to ship them in order to best grow our business. UPS is one of those suppliers. Epic first partnered with UPS to manage our international freight in 2002. Over the years, we have grown that partnership to over $3 million a year, utilizing Air Express, air freight, and ocean logistics. Our partnership with UPS has been documented in Compass Magazine, a UPS publication, as well as a case study for UPS Learning Series. UPS, much like Epic, focuses their business on understanding their customers' unique needs and providing a cost effective, timely solution. Today, joining me is Mo Mitchell, UPS International Sales Manager for the Northeast region, who has represented Epic for over 10 years. Today, we are going to talk about some of the challenges that come with shipping international that Epic and UPS together solve for our customers. Thank you, Mo, for taking the time to spend with us to go through the behind the scenes challenges and hidden costs that come with international shipping are. So one of the issues that we're dealing with in our competition at Epic is many of our customers are either trying to work directly with customers, vendors in Asia, or with small brokers in the U.S. And one of the things that they're seeing as they're comparing quotes is our pricing is all FOB New Bedford for all of our products, and we're seeing a lot of these either Asian suppliers or small brokers quoting terms of sale such as X Works, and our customers aren't understanding what the difference is. Maybe you can elaborate on what's involved.
Absolutely. I think one of the important notes for the folks internal at Epic to be able to sell to these customers to understand what your competitive advantage is. And the advantage is that that FOB New Bedford means you've done a lot of work to get it to New Bedford. And when I say a lot of work, meaning if you're buying at X Works from China and you're getting a lower rate, you're now responsible for export clearance in China, working with the vendor to have it clear customs in China. That's step one. Step two is how are they shipping it? Do they have space on the plane during peak season? Is the proper paperwork being completed? Is the order visible through some sort of tracking network? And then what sort of service level are they using? Is it going through China Post, for example, which is basically their zero visibility? Are they using an integrated carrier like a FedEx, like a UPS? And then when it does arrive in the United States, what then takes place? It has to clear customs. So your customer that's buying at X Works, whether they know it or not, are now the importer of record. They're now have to be compliant with U.S. import laws. My assumption is that a lot of those folks don't have the personnel to fully understand what they're getting involved with. So if the folks at Epic that are selling to these people, selling against these people, really need to fully understand all the value that you're adding between China and New Bedford, because there's a ton of value. It's a better customer experience buying it here, letting you folks do what you're good at.
So we have shipments almost daily with UPS. I don't think that there's been a time in the last 10 years where there's not an Epic package somewhere in your system. And we typically receive our packages in 2 days, 2 to 3 days from UPS. It sounds like there's a lot of steps involved with from when it leaves our supplier to when it gets on our dock. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
There are. We sort of just touched on some of them. These orders, one, they require space on the planes, and at certain times of the year, there's space is more readily available, and at other times of the year, like we're coming into Chinese New Year, our planes will be absolutely full between now and the New Year and the Chinese New Year. It's a very busy time. From say Halloween till Christmas time, planes are absolutely full for what we call peak season, which is heavy retail. We're all familiar with Apple and their rollouts. So you're competing for space on the plane with an Apple, for example. Uh, Epic's advantage is that you're a great customer of UPS's in high times, low times, basically any time. You mentioned that you absolutely have packages in the air 24/7, 365. And what that allows us to do is forecast space on behalf of Epic. Um, so there's never a time where we're telling you we don't have room for you. And that's a huge advantage. So that's one big piece of it. The second piece is just the export compliance. The vendors have to clear export customs, Chinese export customs. We obviously assist in that process, and one of the things that we do is we make that process visible to you, so that if something does get held up, which does happen, you know about it and you can go to the vendor and say, why hasn't this cleared customs? This is your responsibility. If you're buying X Works and you're a US company and you're buying at X Works and you're not familiar with this process, you have one, you don't even know what's happening. Two, if you knew it was happening, who would you call? So that's a huge value add, that you have visibility into that. And also, you're shipping on a daily basis, so you shouldn't experience delays with export clearance. It then goes on a flight. Typically, it'll go from the Far East into Anchorage, and then Anchorage, it'll get on a new flight into Louisville. And Louisville is our hub where it clears customs. So at Louisville, UPS, we don't obviously pay customs the employees directly, but they're nearly employees of ours. They reside in our facility. We're our own port, so we pay customs, a large amount of money every year to have that privilege of having them on site within our facility. Everything clears electronically. Customs has full visibility into what's on our planes by manifest, and then we file entries electronically. A typical shipment, say if it left on a Monday, it would hit Louisville on a Tuesday, clear customs somewhere typically between 9 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and it'll be on the flight from Louisville up to Logan at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we truck it from Logan to the Dartmouth facility. It arrives in Dartmouth by 7:30, and gets dispatched out of Dartmouth. And typically, you're seeing a delivery here at 9:30 in the morning. So that's 2 days. I mean, so a lot happens in those 2 days. Typically, you ship a lot on Fridays and Saturdays. A lot of orders go out, and those are typically delivered here on a Monday. So your speed is unmatched. The folks that your salespeople are competing against aren't doing this. They can't go this fast, for a few reasons, especially if they're buying at X Works, if they're using China Post, or if they're using a traditional air freight model. You are absolutely beating them. And it's also the relationships with the vendors that you have. I mean, we have relationships with your vendors because of our long-term relationship. So it's I find it hard to believe someone buying at X Works from an unknown factory is going to have the same customer experience that your customers are going to have. And I think that's your biggest selling point, is that you're taking a lot of that unknown, you're taking that piece of it, those pain points out of it, and that's what you're selling.
So you mentioned a couple of things in there that I think are important to go over in a little bit more detail, and those are planes, trucks, and employees. And I think sometimes what gets lost in what we do is how involved UPS is in our process. And I think what's important about the planes, trucks, and employees is it's all UPS owned. You're not outsourcing any part of your.
It's a great point. So we're one of the world's largest airlines, depending on how you measure it, whether it's number of flights or the number of planes, but we're anywhere from the sixth to the eighth largest airline in the world. Those are our planes. Those are our pilots. When it clears customs, that's UPS Customs House Brokerage. We're the largest broker in the world. Nobody clears more entries, more freight through customs than UPS does. That's worldwide. The person that delivers your freight here, that's a UPS employee. When it goes to a UPS building, we own that building, and those are our employees. That's our technology. So it's a very seamless operation. We have 425,000 worldwide employees. And Epec is one of our district's largest accounts, which, to put it in perspective, we're a couple of $1 billion district, and Epec is an extremely important customer within our district. So everyone's aware of Epec, everyone's aware of your needs, and we've developed just a great long-term relationship, so that when things do go awry, we know the people at the factory when something goes wrong. We know your employees. Another huge selling point is that a lot of our customers, when they're dealing with vendors in China, there's no go-between. They're dealing directly with the vendor. They're hoping what the vendor's telling them is truthful. You folks have people on the street, your employees, and that's a huge differentiator from my perspective, that you have someone that can walk into a factory, check the quality, check the time, check to see if things are actually being made at that factory. Does that factory truly exist? Things of that nature. So that's a big competitive advantage that your folks should be selling, is that you have a comfort level of your fellow employees being within those factories.
Well, we're focusing on high reliability custom electronics. So there's a lot of variables that go into the manufacturing process. So there are things that are impossible to prevent. We're going to have fallout. We're going to have to rebuild. We're going to have to do that. So our focus is always taking out the risk where we can. And having been to Asia as many times as I have been, and at all of our facilities as many times as I have been, one of the comforts that I have in using UPS is when our shipment's getting picked up, it looks exactly like a shipment's being picked up here. It's a brown truck and a driver in a UPS uniform, and the same scanning, same equipment, exact same process. And my personal experience has been seeing other couriers or freight forwarders or even competitors of yours. It's not the same experience. There are open cars, there are subcontracted drivers.
Sure.
And being that we build electronics in a very tropical area of the world, there's a lot of risk that goes into that. So for us, peace of mind in our quality process, knowing that it's in an enclosed truck and that it is a UPS employee, is a big part of why we like the model that you guys have.
We lose sight of that as UPS employees, but that's how we've grown. They're our employees. It's our technology. So our technology in China is extremely similar to the technology here. We try to have one single platform. So the visibility that you have, we give you all the visibility that we have. There's no internal fields that we won't give you to help you manage your business. Years past it was you held on to that data for whatever reason that may have been, and then the thinking is, let's arm our customers with every scan that we possibly have and help you manage your business. So that driver in China who's picking that up is using what we call the dyad board. Just as the driver here is scanning the packages, they're scanning the packages there. So you can see when a shipment is created at your vendor, it'll say, shipment processed or label created. But that just means they've created a label. So a lot of Chinese vendors will create a label, and then the chase is on. Where's the actual shipment? And we're on the tail end of that a lot of times. But with your system, we know label created, shipment processed. Package picked up. We scan it. So if there isn't a scan, that just means a label's been created in a warehouse, which really means nothing. Just means a tracking number's been assigned. But with our driver scanning it immediately, we can tell you, or you can see that, we have a live order. There's some packages moving. We also give our customers, specifically Epec, you have visibility into the invoice, into the actual paperwork. We scan all the paperwork at so when it leaves your vendor and goes to our hub, that's when all the sort of the package the process really truly starts for us. But we scan images of all your invoices, so you can go online and you can see. You have so many shipments in the year. You might you might not know which shipment is what, like what PO is going where. You could track it by PO. You can look at your invoice and see what's actually how many, it's part number ABC and so forth. And so truly be able to manage your business through QuantumView for importers. But that relationship it's critical.
We actually also, to keep what you were saying with scanning the invoices, we have our on-site employees who do something really similar as shipments are picked up. They're doing the same thing, but they're uploading it into our internal ERP system. So that way, first thing we do in the morning in receiving is they're processing what's been uploaded, so that they can plan their day. Because we know at 9:30 our driver's pulling up. We're usually one of the first stops, so they're prepared, knowing okay, we're getting in. We get in anywhere between on a slow day 100, on a busy day upwards of 600 boxes, and we need to know what's going where, because there's a lot of moving parts.
And that's the benefit of the increased visibility, is that not only do you know that there's 100 pieces coming to you, you know what's inside those 100 pieces, which helps the shipping department handle those, and so you can kind of stage your orders and know what's going back out that same day. You can truly manage your business. And when I think about folks who are ordering smaller quantities on an irregular basis direct from China, and they're missing out on so much of that technology and so much of that expertise. And I have to imagine that customer experience in most cases is horrible. And should something go wrong, if I'm ordering directly from China on a custom made circuit board, for example, and it gets here and it's not the custom made circuit board that I had envisioned, what then happens? The way you folks operate, you can turn that problem around pretty quickly. And I would imagine that's what your sales folks need to be selling, is the value adds that you provide versus what many of their competitors are doing.
One of the dangers, I talked a little bit about weather, just because that's a huge thing when you're in Southeast Asia, and humidity and moisture with the electronics products. But one of the other risks that we run, that we've had issues with using other suppliers and just seeing it on the customer end, is the way that the boxes are handled in transit. If boxes are dropped or tossed or thrown around, or turbulence, all that stuff. Especially on our printed circuit board business, the packages could be the product could be damaged. You get dented corners and it doesn't fit in properly.
Sure.
It could damage the circuitry that cause the products to rub together. There's a lot of different quality problems that could come. It left the factory perfectly fine, but by the time it gets here, it's damaged, and we have to do a rebuild. I saw recently on Twitter there was a UPS thing where they had a GoPro linked to a box in your Louisville hub. We very rarely ever see damaged product coming from UPS, and after watching the GoPro video, you can see why, with the amount of automation. And if you could talk a little bit about the hub and the way that you guys handle the amount of packages that you do and the way that you do.
Yeah, our Louisville hub it's a wonder of the world. I mean, it literally is. When the planes come into Louisville, the human touch on it is literally the unload from the plane into the building, and then within the building there's thousands of miles of conveyor belts that, for the shipments that have to clear customs, they go down one route. The technology within that is, we have overhead scanners that are scanning the labels, and they smartly direct traffic, and they get spaced out evenly. It's basically highways going through this building, so the packages barely touch each other. And then once they get through that processing, the only other handle is going back loaded into the can to put on the plane. So it's very little handling in Louisville, actual physically touching of those packages. It's a fully enclosed environment. You know, when you talked about the weather, we've had customers, new customers that have come over from the competition, specifically during monsoon season, where their shipments, their critical shipments, have been left out in literally in a monsoon on a tarmac, you know, waiting to get loaded on a plane. So they may have been indoors for 80% of that move, but that 20% out in the rain ruined the product. We avoid that at all costs. Our product does not sit outside. We're fully enclosed. So, but Louisville it's worth a trip to see. It's worth like Nat Geo and some other type. You know, if you're interested in how things work, there's some television shows just specifically on Louisville, because it is, the technology in that building is cutting edge. So
Yeah,
we
this GoPro one, I think it was actually done by your team, but it was like time lapse, and you know, I had the silent movie music and all the stats of the boxes a day that you guys are doing. It was right before Christmas to say, you know,
Sure.
this is what happens, but just watching it go through all the different, it was pretty incredible.
So Louisville, it's funny, if you visited Louisville at noon on a weekday, you would think UPS was going out of business. There's barely a package in the building. We do tours, we do customer tours, we do employee tours of Louisville, the Louisville hub, and they begin at midnight. And that's when all the action takes place. We land a plane, I think it's every 30 or 40 seconds. So we have 120 flights in, we have 120 flights out, basically between midnight and say, you know, 5, 6 in the morning. And it's a fully automated hub. We have our own air traffic control going on. We have our own weathermen on site, and it's a marvel in terms of how it operates. But you know, during the peak season, it might be 1.5 million packages going through that facility. I think on average it's about 1 million packages a night going through. You know, we have customs on site there. You know, if an inspection, so when something clears customs, this is an important note. So it probably 98% of your packages clear what we call paperless, meaning we submit an entry to customs via data fields. They reply back to us that it's cleared because they know your product, they know your vendors, they know Epec very well. You do this on a daily basis. And so things typically get cleared immediately. So they don't get slowed down within the hub. They go right out the door. Customs on a random basis will ask they want to see the paperwork. So we have scans of all the paperwork. We're not physically tearing the paperwork off the package. We don't have to go find it. We have scans of it. We provide that paperwork electronically to them, the actual pictures of it, and then it will clear. On the rare occasion that they actually want to do a physical exam of the contents, and that could be for any number of reasons that happens, that our system will kick that package when they tell us they want to physically look at it. That package will get segregated to another belt that will go to the exam station within Louisville. So they physically examine it. So if you use a freight forwarder, typically if customs asks for a physical exam, in any given port, there's what they call a central exam station, a CES, that you have to take in bond your package from, say, it's a China Airlines. You have to take it to that particular warehouse to get examined. So you have to pay for that, number one, and it has to move in bond, so it's a little bit more expensive. You have to pay for the exam, and then it goes back to the warehouse that it started at. That's where you would pick it up. So there's a delay in that, in time, but there's also additional cost. Our exams take place on site, and they take place instantly.
Which is huge. I mean, a couple of days in a warehouse could be extremely expensive and for our product, which is time critical, is gonna blow your delivery schedule and could be
Sure.
your customer's production schedule as well. One of the things that we try and do corporately at Epic is we don't fluctuate our pricing to our customers throughout the year. There's a couple of things that really affect our product. It's cost of gold, copper, metal, different metals, gas, those types of things. And as you guys know, those fluctuate constantly. We don't reduce prices when copper is really low. We don't raise prices when copper is really high. We try and stay as consistent as possible so that our customers know what to expect. Epic has a similar relationship with UPS because we've been such a long-term customer and the volumes that we do. If you could talk a little bit about that, and just we know what to expect from you on a yearly basis.
And so what we do with Epic in terms of pricing is we basically set the rate at the start of the year, and at our heaviest times, there's no additional surcharges for Epic. During that Chinese New Year, during peak season, a lot of carriers charge peak season surcharges, and you may not know when that's going to be put in place, and you may not know how much that's going to be. So that unknown, as you said, you set your pricing for your customers, so you operate in a similar fashion that we do. And what that does is it allows you to run your business more effectively. It allows your customers to forecast better. So that unknown, the only fluctuating factor in there is the fuel, and we've all seen recently where the fuel is going, so that you'll only see decreases in the fuel surcharge in the coming months, and you've seen them over the past year that they've gone down, so you'll benefit from that, but we try to look at you as a long-term customer, and we price it accordingly.
Well, I think that we've worked together for 10 years now. We've been dealing with UPS corporately for the last, I think, 12 or 13. So I think going forward, that relationship will continue to stay where it is in terms of the strength, because I think we're very mutually beneficial to each other at this point.
There's no question. I mean, Epic's it's such a strategic account for us. It's I've sort of been the face of UPS, but whether you folks know it or not, you're extremely important back at our district headquarters. Everyone is aware of your account. Because one, it's been so consistently, you've had such consistent growth over the decade. You're a very large customer, and your packages. This is an important. Like, your packages are very dense. Circuit boards are heavy, so you have great freight. Like, it's great freight for us because it doesn't take up a ton of space, but it's good and heavy freight. Your packaging, we've worked with you over the years with packaging. We have a packaging lab that if there were, like you said, damages, we'll take a look at someone's packaging. We'll send it to the package lab and make suggestions. Your packaging, has stood our small package environment test. Because that's not to say that we have customers that don't experience, damages through our process. And most times those customers are, they're not putting a strong package into our environment, and they're not working with us to make sure that they're using the proper packaging. And that's not the best relationship. The relationship here has always been, what can we do better from our perspective and from your perspective. And I think that partnership is what really makes this a real valuable relationship.
Well, I think both of our organizations focus on the same thing, where we want to be extremely cost competitive, but our focus to our customers, and it seems yours is definitely with us, is how do we add value, how do we create efficiencies, how do we improve each other's business together. And I think those core values of what we're trying to do for our customers really make this partnership fall in line very well, because yes, we want to be cost effective and we want to provide cost relief where we can, but we want to improve your business and improve that value and add supply chain and add support and add technical expertise, which I think we both do well.
Very well, and I think that that's something your folks that are selling out on the street, that's it's a good takeaway for them, that they should be bringing value. You know, we laugh. Price is always extremely important. But they say, like, price without service is useless, and that's what you're selling against. You're selling against a price with no service, and if your folks could be more confident in what you're actually providing, other than just a printed circuit board at a price. You're providing a whole customer experience, the whole supply chain management piece of it. And I would suggest that if they're just selling to a purchasing manager based on price, they should probably find another avenue to sell within that company. And I'll give you an example. If you're beating your competition by a week on a printed circuit board that is going into a piece of hospital equipment that's worth $250,000, what that means is, if you're allowing them to build that piece of hospital equipment a week faster, that means that hospital equipment manufacturer will get paid a week faster. They'll be able to ship a week faster. So the purchasing manager that you're selling to, that may not be on their scorecard, right? They may not care about that. But the CFO, if you could tell them, I can reduce your days sales outstanding by 4 or 5 days. If you told the CFO you could lower their DSO by a day, you're going to get an audience. They're going to listen to you. So I think that when someone gets stuck in the weeds with a purchasing manager over pennies on a printed circuit board, you may want to think of another avenue, and that other avenue is customer service. At your customer, do you have visibility to your orders? We'll give you visibility. It might be sales. How many of your sales have fallen through because your company isn't doing what they thought they were going to be doing? Their printed circuit boards, which is just one component of many in the manufacturing process, are 2 weeks late, or they're damaged, or they don't perform. So it's not just that purchasing manager. There's other entities. I mentioned, on the financial side, sales side, customer service side. I would recommend that you sell to them what you're doing, which is you're selling a printed circuit board, but you're providing supply chain management on top of that. You're providing speed to market on top of that, and you're providing the engineering and the expertise. And I would suggest that if they sell to that in that vein, it'll help increase sales.
Well, I think that we've put out a lot of information that I think will be very helpful in understanding what the difference is between Epec and a lot of our competition, and I think helpful in terms of understanding what value we add to our supply chain. So thank you for being here today.
Appreciate it.
Going through all of these details with us. We appreciate it, and we appreciate UPS's support over the last 10 years and moving forward.
You're welcome. We look forward to a great year.